You think we don't know what you did? My father's voice split the air like glass. It was 9:17 p.m. on a Sunday, the night my family decided I was no longer family. They called me a thief and threw me out barefoot. But truth doesn't stay buried forever. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you love, don't miss this story. It's one you'll feel in your bones. The living room smelled of burnt coffee and anger. The television flickered behind them, half lighting their faces, making them look almost unfamiliar. My sister Claire stood between them, arms folded, pretending to hold back tears. Her performance would have fooled anyone, except me. I didn't speak right away. Silence was my only defense now. I'd learned long ago that the louder people accuse you, the more they're hiding themselves. My mother's hands trembled as she clutched her rosary. You took the money from your father's account, she whispered. He worked 40 years for that and you just took it. I stared at her, stunned. What money? But she looked away like my voice had suddenly become a stranger's. Claire stepped forward, holding a printed bank statement like a knife. It's right here, she said softly, pretending pity. $2,000 withdrawn under your name last Thursday. I told you not to gamble online, but you never listen. My heart dropped, not because of her words but because I knew the statement was real. I recognized my name, my address. But the signature wasn't mine. I reached for the paper. He pulled it back fast. Don't touch it, she hissed, her mask slipping for a second. That tiny moment told me everything. I glanced at my father. His jaw tightened. Pack your things, he said. I won't have a thief under my roof. I wanted to laugh, to scream, to fall apart, but instead I whispered, you'll regret believing her. My voice didn't shake. That was my only victory. Claire tilted her head, eyes gleaming. Still pretending? You're too old to lie that well. She moved closer, lowering her voice so only I could hear. They'll never believe you. They never have. Her words landed colder than the air outside. I looked around the room, the framed photos on the wall, the lamp I'd given my mother for her birthday, the clock that had ticked through every Christmas dinner. It all suddenly looked staged, like a set for a play I didn't belong in. My mother started crying. My father muttered something about disappointment. I didn't hear the rest. My heartbeat drowned everything out. When I finally spoke, it wasn't to defend myself. You'll find out the truth, I said quietly. Maybe not tonight, but soon. They didn't want truth. They wanted peace, and peace required a villain. I walked to my room, or what used to be mine. My suitcase was half open from my last weekend trip. I folded 2 dresses, a sweater, and a pair of shoes. But when I turned back, Claire was standing in the doorway, blocking the exit. Leave the shoes, she said, smiling. If you really didn't take anything, walk out the way you came in, with nothing. It wasn't a suggestion. For a second I thought she'd push me, maybe even slap me the way she had once in high school when no one was watching. But she didn't need to. My father's voice echoed from the hallway. Do what she said. So I did. I left the shoes. I left everything. The gravel outside bit into my feet as I stepped into the cold. The porch light flickered above me like it couldn't decide whether to stay on or abandon me too. Don't come back until you've learned some shame, my father shouted from the door. The door slammed before I could answer. I stood there for a long minute, staring at the house that had been my entire world. Behind one curtain, I saw Claire's shadow move. She wasn't crying anymore. He was watching. Waiting. The sky was heavy with clouds, the kind that swallow every star. A wind pushed through the trees, sharp and merciless. I started walking, not because I knew where to go but because standing still felt like surrender. Each step sent a new sting up my legs. The stones felt sharper with every yard. My feet left tiny prints of blood on the pavement, but I didn't look down. I just kept repeating to myself, they'll see. One day they'll see. Halfway down the street I passed the mailbox, the same one I'd painted blue as a teenager. Inside I saw something wedged between envelopes, a crumpled receipt. I almost ignored it, then something, maybe instinct, made me pull it out. It was a bank transaction slip. The ink was smeared from rain, but I could read one line. Transfer. $2,000, Claire Mitchell. Date, Thursday, 2:45 p.m. My breath caught. That was my supposed withdrawal date. The paper was slightly torn, maybe dropped in haste. She must have slipped it in by accident when she handed the statement to Dad. I folded the receipt and tucked it into my sweater pocket. My fingers were numb, but my mind wasn't. At the corner of the street, a dog barked somewhere behind a fence. A porch light flicked on. I kept walking. The neighborhood felt different now, smaller, colder, unfamiliar. When I reached the bus stop, the bench was wet from drizzle. I sat anyway, hugging my bag against my chest. The receipt pressed against my skin, warm despite the cold. It felt like the tiniest spark of justice hiding in plain sight. For the first time since the shouting began, I allowed myself to breathe. Not cry, just breathe. I watched a car pass by, my father's old sedan. For a second I thought he might turn around. He didn't. The headlights disappeared, leaving me in the hum of silence. A few raindrops fell. Then more. Within minutes it was pouring. I pulled the hood of my sweater over my head and leaned back, closing my eyes. Under the noise of rain, my sister's last words replayed in my head. "They'll never believe you." But she was wrong about one thing. They didn't need to believe me. I just needed proof, and now I had it. My mind began to clear, each drop of rain washing away another layer of hurt. I thought of all the times I'd covered for her. The missing cash at Mom's birthday, the broken jewelry she blamed on me, the tears that always won sympathy. Every memory lined up now, forming a pattern I'd ignored for years. I wasn't weak. I was slow to see. A bus passed without stopping. The driver glanced, saw no one waiting, and kept going. Fine. I wasn't ready to leave yet. The night was cold, but my anger burned hotter than the wind. In the distance, the church bell struck 10. That sound, steady, measured, gave me focus. I took the receipt out again, flattened it on my palm, and studied the handwriting. Her initials were there. Her carelessness, her pride, all stamped on one small slip of paper. People always say revenge is poison. Maybe they're right. But sometimes, poison is the only medicine left when truth is ignored. I placed the paper back in my bag and zipped it shut. The rain slowed, leaving the air heavy and metallic. When I finally stood, my legs trembled, but not from weakness. From purpose. I turned one last time toward the faint outline of my parents' house. The lights were off now. Only one window glowed faintly, Claire's room. He probably thought I was gone forever. She probably thought she'd won. I smiled, just a small one, the kind that no one sees in the dark. Because I knew something she didn't. Something she'd find out soon enough. I wasn't walking away in defeat. I was walking toward evidence. Toward clarity. Toward revenge. The night air stung my face as I took another step forward. My bare feet no longer felt the stones. They felt direction. And in that silence, between the rain and the hum of distant cars, I made a promise. Not out loud, not even to God. Just to myself. You took my home tonight, Claire. But I'll take your peace tomorrow. I didn't sleep that night. The rain kept whispering against the bus stop roof like it had something to say but couldn't find the courage. I sat there until dawn, clutching that torn receipt, the one she'd dropped, like it was my heartbeat. Every time I unfolded it, I could see her name stamped beside the transaction. It was faint, but it was enough. Claire Mitchell. By sunrise, the storm had passed, leaving the streets slick and quiet. I watched a delivery truck roll by, its tires slicing through puddles, and thought of my father leaving for work years ago. Same route, same time. For a moment I almost felt pity for him. He didn't know he'd thrown away the only person who ever protected him from Claire's games. I had no home to return to, but I did have a direction. Not revenge yet, just truth. I walked to a small diner near the edge of town, the kind that smelled of burnt toast and strong coffee. The owner, Mrs. Lang, was an older widow who'd known my parents back when things were simpler. She took one look at me, wet hair, bruised feet, eyes that hadn't closed all night, and didn't ask questions. "Sit," she said, pouring coffee before I could speak. "You look like life's been unkind." I smiled weakly. "Just a long night." She slid me a plate of eggs, still steaming. "Eat. We'll talk after." That was how my first refuge began, not in comfort but in kindness. After breakfast, I asked if she needed help around the place. She did. Within the hour, I was scrubbing tables and sweeping floors. It wasn't dignity, but it was distance. Distance from the lies, the shouting, and the faces that had cast me out. Every night, when the last customer left, I'd sit at the counter and unfold that receipt again. Under the fluorescent light, the ink looked darker, like it was waiting for me to notice something new. One night I did. The bank stamp wasn't from my father's usual branch. It was from the downtown office, the one Claire used when she managed Dad's errands. She'd probably forged my name during one of those trips. My father trusted her with his passwords. She'd always been the responsible daughter. I was the emotional one, the late bloomer, the one they pitied. Maybe pity was their biggest mistake. The next morning I went to the library, one of the few places still offering free computer access. I looked up the bank's contact number and the process for requesting transaction proof. I learned that if a withdrawal was made in person, it would have a security camera record tied to the transaction time. My pulse steadied. Thursday, 2:45 p.m. That's what the receipt said. I didn't have an account anymore. Dad had removed my name that night, but I did have something better. A paper trail and a reason to keep asking questions. When I called the bank, the clerk told me they couldn't release footage without an official request from the account holder. I thanked her, hung up, and smiled to myself. The system wasn't built for people like me, but it also wasn't built to hide liars forever. That night I told Mrs. Lang the truth. Not everything, just enough. My family thinks I did something I didn't. I'm trying to prove it. She nodded, wiping her hands on her apron. Good. Don't waste your energy on pain when you can spend it on proof. Her words stayed with me. Proof, not pain. Days turned into weeks. I learned to make coffee without burning it, to keep customers talking while I listened. People gossip without realizing it, and in small towns, gossip is faster than any newspaper. One morning I overheard two women at the counter whispering about a gathering at the community hall the week before. A fundraiser Claire had attended. They said she'd made quite the impression. Boasted all night, one woman said. About teaching her sister a lesson. Some people have no shame. My hands froze around the coffee pot. That was my chance. That evening I called an old friend, Maggie, a neighbor who used to babysit for Claire's kids. We hadn't spoken in years, not since my family stopped inviting me to birthdays. When she picked up, her voice was cautious at first. Maggie, it's me. I just need to ask something. I heard what happened, dear. People talk. I know. That's why I need your help. She hesitated. Claire said. I cut her off gently. I'm not asking you to pick sides. I just need one thing. Was anyone recording at that fundraiser? Photos, videos, anything? There was a long pause. Then a quiet laugh. Actually, yes. My son filmed parts of it for the school project. Why? My heart nearly stopped. Could I see it? Come by tomorrow. I'll show you. I didn't sleep again that night. The rain had stopped, but the air felt the same, heavy, waiting. I kept replaying Claire's face in my mind, the way she smirked when I walked out barefoot. She thought she'd buried me under shame. She didn't realize she'd left fingerprints on the shovel. When morning came, I dressed neatly, borrowed shoes from Mrs. Lang, brushed my hair, and put on lipstick for the first time in months. I didn't want to look broken when I faced Maggie. I wanted to look ready. Maggie's house smelled of lavender and old furniture. Her son, Daniel, greeted me politely and pulled up the footage on his laptop. It was shaky, filmed from the back of the hall. People were laughing, clinking glasses. And then, there she was, Claire, standing near the microphone, holding a drink, glowing in her confidence. Some families never learn boundaries, she said on screen, laughing. You try to help them and they stab you in the back. But you know what I did? I taught her what consequences look like. The crowd laughed. Someone clapped. And then she said it, clear as day. I made her own parents throw her out. Sometimes you have to show them who's smarter. The room in Maggie's house went quiet. I could hear the faint hum of the fridge in the next room, my own pulse echoing in my ears. Maggie turned to me, eyes wide. My God, she really said that. I didn't answer. I just watched the video again. The way Claire's eyes sparkled when she bragged, the way she had no idea her downfall had already begun. Could I get a copy? I asked softly. Maggie nodded. Take it. If anyone deserves truth, it's you. I thanked her, hugged her, and walked out into the cold afternoon light. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from focus. That night, back at the diner, I sat alone in the storage room watching the video on my phone over and over. Every frame was a confession disguised as pride. Every laugh was another nail in her own coffin. I began saving everything. The video file, the receipt photo, the timestamps, even screenshots of messages where she'd mocked me. Slowly I built a folder. For truth, I named it. Not revenge. Not yet. Still, something in me had changed. The more evidence I gathered, the less I felt like the broken woman at the bus stop. I was rebuilding myself piece by piece, every document another layer of armor. Sometimes, late at night, I'd imagine walking into my parents' house again, placing this proof on their table, and watching their faces shift from disbelief to regret. But I didn't rush it. Timing mattered. Patience was my weapon now. A week later, the bank clerk I'd spoken to called back unexpectedly. She said, "Ma'am, I can't share footage, but, hypothetically, if someone withdrew money under another person's name, there'd be handwriting records. Sometimes, people slip up." Her tone told me more than her words could. "Thank you," I said quietly. That's all I needed to know. When I hung up, my reflection stared back from the dark window, tired eyes, a faint smile. For the first time in months, I saw strength instead of shame. I realized revenge wasn't about rage. It was about clarity. About making sure the truth cut clean. That night, I opened my small notebook and wrote a single line. She used my name to steal. I'll use her words to destroy. I slipped the notebook into my bag alongside the receipt and the flash drive. My proof. My first weapon. Outside, the neon sign of the diner flickered, half light, half shadow. I stepped out under it, looking toward the road that led home. The air smelled of distant rain and the wind carried faint echoes of laughter. Hers maybe, or just memory. Either way, it didn't matter. Because now I had what she never expected. The truth on paper and time on my side. And time, I've learned, is a loyal weapon when you stop begging for mercy and start planning for silence. The next few days moved slowly, the kind of slow that gnaws at you. I went to work, cleaned tables, refilled coffee cups, smiled when customers smiled at me. But every night I opened that folder labeled for truth and stared at it like it was a wound that hadn't healed yet. Inside were fragments. A receipt, a video clip, a few screenshots. Scattered pieces of a puzzle only I could see. Still, something was missing. The proof was strong, but the world doesn't care about quiet facts. It cares about noise. The kind that embarrasses, exposes, and reverses sympathy. I needed that kind of noise. It came on a Thursday afternoon, nearly a month after I'd found the receipt. I was wiping down the diner counter when Mrs. Lang turned up the small radio she kept beside the coffee machine. The local station was covering a charity event downtown, hosted by the Mitchell family. My family. The sound of my sister's voice floated through the static, bright, confident, pretending at goodness. "We believe in helping those in need," she said. "Sometimes even family needs tough love to learn responsibility." I froze. Every word felt like a small slap. The customers kept chatting, unaware that the woman serving them was the one being humiliated live on air. Mrs. Lang caught my expression and quietly lowered the volume. "That her?" I nodded. My throat felt tight. "Yes. That's her." She hesitated, then asked gently, "What are you going to do?" I looked at the dark window where my reflection stared back at me. "I'm going to listen." After my shift ended, I found a replay of the broadcast online. Listening to it again, I realized how carefully she'd spoken. Every word chosen to make me sound unstable, irresponsible, even dangerous. "She's been struggling for years," she told the reporter. "But sometimes you have to protect your parents from emotional manipulation." My hands shook on the keyboard. Emotional manipulation. That's what she'd called me. I'd been their caretaker for years, the one who handled hospital appointments, medications, bills. She never showed up unless there was attention or inheritance involved. That night I couldn't eat. I just stared at the screen, hearing her voice over and over. Then an idea started to take shape. Quiet, steady, inevitable. If she wanted the world to hear her, I'd let them. But this time they'd hear everything. The next morning I called Maggie. She'd been uneasy ever since giving me the video clip from the fundraiser, worried it would cause too much trouble. But trouble was already here. It just needed direction. "Maggie," I said, "do you still have the full recording of that night?" She sighed. "You really think this will help?" "I don't think." "I know." When I arrived at her house, she handed me a flash drive. "Be careful," she said softly. "She's powerful in this town." "Not for long," I replied. Back at the diner, after closing, I borrowed Mrs. Lang's laptop. I plugged in the drive and watched the full footage. At 32 minutes in, Claire appeared again. Laughing. Always laughing. "She begged me to believe her," she told the crowd. Barefoot, crying, I almost felt bad for her. But honestly, she needed that lesson. Laughter erupted around her. A man's voice, maybe one of her colleagues, said, You're ruthless, Claire. Oh, I just don't like thieves, she joked, sipping her wine. That was it. The sound that changed everything. That laugh. That laugh was my trigger. I pulled out my old phone, checked the storage and cleared space. If she liked the sound of her own cruelty, she could listen to it on repeat. That night I started editing, trimming clips, adjusting volume, cutting silence. I wasn't a tech expert, but pain makes you creative. I stitched together every cruel line, every mocking laugh, until her confession played like a speech. Then I added subtitles, her own words, untouched. I titled the file, "The Lesson She Taught." I didn't post it. Not yet. That wasn't my style. I needed one more layer. Something undeniable. The next day I called the bank again. This time I asked to speak to a different clerk. Someone younger, maybe more impatient, more likely to slip up. I told her I was confirming a transaction on behalf of my sister Claire, who'd forgotten her reference number. The clerk hesitated but said, "The withdrawal at 2:45 p.m.? Yes, it was processed at the downtown branch." I asked casually, "Did it require an ID?" "Yes, of course." "And what kind?" "Driver's license." My heart thudded. Thank you. That's all I needed. I didn't have to say it out loud. My sister didn't have a driver's license. She never passed the test. She'd used mine before, probably stole the copy I'd left in Dad's drawer. I ended the call and stared at the ceiling for a long time. Proof wasn't just paper anymore. It was layers. Receipts, recordings, witnesses, carelessness. Each one fit perfectly now. So I didn't feel peace. Not yet. Because peace would mean I'd stopped caring. And I still cared, too much maybe. A few evenings later, Mrs. Lang found me sitting outside behind the diner, cigarette smoke curling through the cool air. She never judged me for smoking, she just handed me a mint after. "You've been quiet lately," she said, lowering herself beside me. "Quiet people get ignored," I said. "That's useful sometimes." He studied me. "And when they stop being quiet?" I smiled faintly. "Then they get noticed." She looked at me for a long moment before nodding. "Just make sure you're not destroying yourself along the way." I didn't answer. Some destruction feels necessary. That weekend I decided to test the waters. I uploaded a short audio clip from the video, just her laughter followed by her line, "I made her parents throw her out." No names, no context. I posted it anonymously on a local community page under the title, "How far would you go to destroy your own blood?" Within hours the post had dozens of comments. Some people recognized her voice. Some didn't. But the conversation started. Whispers, suspicions, ripples spreading quietly through town. I stayed anonymous, replying to no one, just watching. The next morning one comment stood out. "Sounds like Claire Mitchell. Isn't she the one who?" I didn't read the rest. I didn't need to. The seed was planted. That night I replayed the laughter again, but this time I wasn't angry. I was curious. How many times had she laughed at me like that without me noticing? How many times had I mistaken her cruelty for confidence, her control for care? Pain does something strange to time. It slows the present and sharpens the past. Every small humiliation I'd ignored over the years came back in flashes. Her cutting remarks at dinner, the smirk when my opinions were dismissed, the quiet glee whenever I failed. I'd always let it pass, thinking family meant forgiveness. But forgiveness without truth isn't peace, it's surrender. And I was done surrendering. A few days later I got a message from Maggie. "People are talking," she wrote. "Your sister's been calling around, asking if anyone's seen that video." I typed back, "Tell her I have it." Then I deleted the message before sending it. Not yet. Not until I was ready to make it count. At the diner things carried on as usual. Mrs. Lang hummed while cleaning, customers complained about the weather, the coffee pot hissed like an old friend. Life had returned to its rhythm, but beneath the routine something was building. I noticed it first in the way people looked at me, softer now, almost apologetic. A few neighbors had recognized the voice in that clip. Some even came by to check on me, pretending it was coincidence. The truth was starting to leak. And for the first time in months I didn't feel like hiding. One evening after closing I locked the diner doors and sat at the counter with the laptop open. I added the bank slip image to the video, overlaying it at the end with the caption, "Every lie leaves a signature." Then I saved the final file. My hands didn't shake this time. But I didn't upload it. Not yet. Because revenge wasn't just about exposure. It was about timing. I wanted her to see the trap before it closed. I wanted her to feel the slow burn of panic. The same kind she'd left me with that night when the door slammed behind me. The next morning I took a deep breath and dialed my parents' number. My mother answered, voice trembling slightly. "Hello. It's me," I said. Silence. Then, "Why are you calling?" "I just wanted you to know something," I said, calm and even. "I'm still alive. And soon, everyone will know what really happened." She gasped softly. "Please don't make this worse." I hung up before she could finish. I set the phone down and whispered to myself. She laughed when I fell. Now it's her turn to hear the echo. And that night, as I stood outside under the humming streetlight, uploading the final video into a folder marked scheduled, I realized something. This wasn't revenge anymore. It was justice, sharpened by patience, fueled by truth, and carried by a woman they thought had no fight left. And by sunrise, justice had found its wings. When I woke the next morning, the diner was quiet, but my phone wasn't. It vibrated again and again. Messages, missed calls, notifications I hadn't seen in months. For a second I thought something was wrong with the signal. Then I opened the screen. The video had gone live. I hadn't planned to post it that night. I'd only scheduled it for sometime soon. But somehow the platform published it early. Maybe my own nervous hands hit the wrong button. Maybe fate was tired of waiting. Either way, there it was, the lesson she taught. Over 1,000 views in less than 2 hours. By noon it had crossed 10,000. I sat behind the counter trying to make sense of the numbers on the screen. Every few seconds a new comment appeared. "Is this real? That voice sounds familiar. How can someone do this to their own sister?" I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The video spoke for itself. Her voice, her laughter, her words. My name was never mentioned, but everyone knew. In small towns you don't need labels for people to connect the dots. By the time Mrs. Lang arrived, the place felt different. The bell above the door chimed, but her usual smile faltered when she saw my face. "You've been online this morning, haven't you?" she asked. I nodded. "It's spreading." She walked over, leaning on the counter. "You wanted truth, didn't you? This is it." "Truth," I said softly, "is louder than I thought." She studied me for a moment, then poured me coffee. "Loud doesn't always mean peaceful, dear." He was right. Because by noon my peace was long gone. My sister called first. I didn't answer. The phone buzzed until the battery died, her name flashing over and over like a warning light. Then came a message from my mother. "Why are you doing this to us?" To us. Not to her. To us. Even after everything, they still saw my sister as the center of gravity. I typed a reply, then deleted it. Some truths didn't need explaining anymore. By afternoon, people started coming into the diner for more than coffee. They wanted confirmation. They whispered my name like it was a secret, leaning in over their plates. "That's her, right? The sister from the video." I kept wiping tables, silent, polite. Let them wonder. Let them realize that sometimes silence is sharper than words. That evening, Maggie showed up with a small envelope. "You might want to see this," she said. Inside was a printout from the local paper's online site. A headline. "Community figure under fire after viral recording surfaces." Below it, my sister's photo. Not mine. Hers. Standing at that same fundraiser, smiling like she owned the room. The article was polite at first. Alleged recording, context unclear. But the comments told the real story. People who'd once praised her now questioned her. People who doubted me suddenly remembered details, moments, suspicions. In small towns, everyone keeps mental receipts. By the second day, the storm grew teeth. Her employer, the insurance office she bragged about, released a statement saying she'd been placed on temporary leave pending ethical review. That same afternoon, her husband, Todd, posted something cryptic on social media. "Truth finds everyone eventually." It had 300 likes before he deleted it. I didn't smile. Not once. I just watched the dominoes fall. But revenge isn't just satisfaction, it's pressure. And I started to feel it too. The calls didn't stop. Some were kind, others curious, a few cruel. Strangers wanted interviews, relatives wanted explanations, and my parents wanted silence. That night my father finally called. His voice was hoarse, quieter than I'd ever heard it. "You've humiliated this family," he said. "People are talking everywhere. Couldn't you have handled it privately?" "Privately?" I repeated. "You threw me out barefoot in front of the whole street. Was that private?" He didn't answer. I could hear my mother crying in the background. "We didn't know," she said through tears. "We thought she was helping us." "How you do," I said and hung up. The silence afterward felt clean, like a wound being disinfected. It stung but it healed. By the third day the video reached the city news channel. They blurred faces and changed names, but the story was unmistakable. A woman claims her sister falsely accused her of theft. Evidence suggests manipulation and family estrangement. The word estrangement made it sound tidy. But the truth was messy, human, ugly, the kind of story that stains you even when you win. That night I walked home from the diner in cold wind. The trees along Main Street whispered like gossiping neighbors. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from an unknown number. "You think you've won? You ruined everything." No name, but I didn't need one. The words carried her rhythm, short, clipped, proud even when cornered. I typed back. "No. I just stopped losing." Then I turned off my phone. Days passed and with them more cracks appeared in her life. Friends distanced themselves. Her social media went silent. The house she once bragged about owning was listed for sale by owner. People say revenge feels sweet. It doesn't. It feels quiet. Heavy. Like holding a stone that used to crush you but now rests in your palm. Mrs. Lang noticed my unease. "It's done," she said one morning. "You got what you wanted." "Did I?" I asked. "Or did I just change the shape of the pain?" She sighed. "Maybe both. But you survived it. That matters." The town kept buzzing for weeks, but eventually, like all storms, it began to move on. People found new scandals to discuss, new distractions. Only one story remained unresolved. Mine. And Claire's silence was deafening. Then one night she showed up. It was near closing time. The diner was empty except for me wiping the last table. The bell above the door rang softly and when I looked up there she was. Her hair was unwashed, her eyes swollen. The woman who used to command every room now looked like a stranger searching for one kind word. She didn't speak at first. Just stood there, trembling slightly, clutching a purse too small for her shaking hands. "Claire," I said quietly. Her lips quivered. "I didn't think you'd pick up my calls." "I know." She glanced around the diner like she was afraid someone would see her. I need to explain." "Explain what?" I asked. "That you lied? That you laughed while I begged? Or that you're only sorry now because people finally saw?" She winced. "It wasn't supposed to go that far." I folded the rag, placed it neatly on the counter. "It went exactly as far as you pushed it." Her eyes filled with tears. "You ruined me." "No," I said. "You ruined yourself. I just turned on the lights." She shook her head. "You don't understand. They won't hire me anywhere. Todd left. Mom won't talk to me. Dad called me last night," I interrupted. "He asked me to stop the video from spreading." She looked up quickly. "Did you?" "No." Her mouth fell open but no words came. For a long moment neither of us spoke. The old clock ticked on the wall. Outside, a truck rumbled past, its headlights sweeping across her pale face. She whispered, "You hate me." I shook my head slowly. "No, Claire. Hate is what I felt when I thought I lost everything. What I feel now is something else. I don't even have a name for it." She stepped closer, desperate. "Please. I can't live like this." I watched her, not the sister I grew up with, but the stranger who'd used my love like a ladder. "Then learn how it feels," I said softly. "That's what you wanted me to do, remember? To learn." She flinched, backing away. "You don't mean that." I held her gaze. "I mean every word." And for the first time she couldn't hold eye contact. She turned and walked out into the night. When the door closed, I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. My hands trembled, not from fear but from release. Years of silence, swallowed pain, humiliation, all finally exhaled in one quiet moment. I looked out the window and saw her car parked under the streetlight, her figure hunched over the steering wheel. For a second guilt flickered through me, quick, fragile, human. But then I remembered the night I stood barefoot in the rain watching that same house shut me out. No, I told myself. This was balance. The next morning the diner was busier than usual. People smiled at me, offered kind words, even slipped small notes of apology under their checks. Mrs. Lang just nodded, proud but cautious. Later that afternoon a man in a gray suit came in, someone I didn't recognize. He handed me a folded document and said, "Miss Mitchell? I was asked to deliver this to you." It was from my parents. A letter. I waited until he left before opening it. The handwriting was my mother's. It was short. "We don't know how to fix what's been broken. We only hope you find peace in what you've done." I folded the letter neatly and placed it beside the coffee machine. Because I thought, maybe not yet. But close. That night as I walked home, the streetlights flickered the same way they had months ago, that cold February night when I'd been thrown out barefoot. Only this time the cold didn't bite. I had shoes. I had proof. And I had silence, the kind that no one could take from me again. The streetlights hummed softly above me just like they had the night I was thrown out barefoot. But this time the cold didn't sting. This time my feet were wrapped in soft leather, black heels polished so carefully that they caught the orange glow of the lamps. Every click against the pavement felt deliberate, each one erasing an old bruise. I stopped outside the house that used to be mine. The same mailbox, the same porch light flickering stubbornly like it couldn't die, just dim and tired. I'd imagined this moment 100 times, but now that it was here, it didn't feel like triumph. It felt still, like the world was holding its breath. I took a deep one of my own, adjusted the strap of my bag and climbed the 3 wooden steps. The door opened before I could knock. My mother stood there. Her hair was grayer, her shoulders smaller. Behind her, I could see my father sitting in his armchair, the one I'd bought for him after his surgery. He didn't look up. For a second none of us spoke. The only sound was the clock in the hallway ticking between our breaths. Then she whispered, "You came." I did. Her eyes filled but she didn't reach for me. "We thought maybe you'd moved away." "I did," I said evenly. "Just not far enough to forget." I stepped inside. The house smelled the same, lemon polish and the faint scent of old flowers. But it felt smaller now, like the walls themselves knew they'd betrayed someone. On the coffee table were stacks of unopened mail and a single white envelope. My father's handwriting covered the front. "Claire, final notice." So she hadn't paid the bills either. My mother noticed my glance and sighed. "She's been living here again. Temporarily." "Where is she?" "In your old room," she said quietly. "She doesn't go out much these days." I nodded. "I'll talk to her." My mother hesitated. "Please, don't make it worse." I gave her a small, tired smile. "It's already worse. I'm just here to finish the sentence." I walked down the hallway, my heels echoing off the floorboards. The sound was sharp, measured, like a heartbeat that finally found its rhythm. At the end of the hall, my old bedroom door was half closed. I could hear the low hum of a television. I pushed the door open. Claire sat on the edge of the bed, staring at a muted news segment, her own face blurred on the screen. Empty bottles lined the nightstand. She looked up, startled, then froze. "What are you doing here?" I closed the door behind me. "Collecting what's mine." She laughed. A weak, broken sound. "What could you possibly want now? You already took everything." "I didn't take it," I said. "You handed it over the day you lied." She turned away. "You think you're better than me." "No," I said softly. "Just freer." Her jaw tightened. "You ruined my life." I stepped closer. "No, Claire. I stopped letting you ruin mine." She looked older. Her skin, once glowing from endless beauty appointments, was pale and tired. Her eyes darted to the small folder in my hand. "What's that?" she asked. "Closure," I said. I placed it on the bed between us. Inside were printed copies of every document, the receipt, the transcript from her employer's hearing, and the legal notice confirming that the house's joint ownership had shifted back to our parents. Her manipulation of Dad's account had been declared fraudulent. She owned nothing now. She didn't open it. He didn't need to. Her face said she already knew. Her voice cracked. "Is this enough for you?" I thought about it. The rain that night, the pain in my feet, the laughter in that fundraiser hall. Then I said, "Almost." She stared at me like she didn't recognize the woman standing there. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she still pictured me barefoot and broken the way she left me. I didn't mean for them to throw you out, she whispered. I just wanted them to listen to me for once. Then you got what you wanted, I said. They listened. They just stopped hearing the truth. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Please. I can't fix this. No, I said gently. You can't. But you can live with it. That's how fixing works sometimes. I turned toward the window. Outside, the wind carried faint music from somewhere down the street. For a moment, I remembered being 16, the two of us sneaking out to dance in the rain, promising we'd always protect each other. Funny how promises rot quietly. When I turned back, she was trembling. Do you ever feel sorry for me? Every day, I said. And then I remember you weren't sorry for me when I was sleeping in a storage room. She covered her face with her hands. I hate you. I picked up the folder again. You don't hate me. You hate mirrors. I just became one. I moved toward the door, but before I left I said, there's a letter from Mom on the table. She still loves you. She's just afraid of you. Her voice broke. And you? I paused. I stopped being afraid a long time ago. When I stepped back into the living room, my parents were waiting. My father's eyes were glassy, his voice barely above a whisper. We're sorry. It was simple. Honest. The kind of apology that comes too late but still means something. I nodded. You believed what you saw. I would have too. He looked at my shoes. Black, polished, unshakable. You look strong. I am. My mother touched my arm gently. Will you stay for dinner? I shook my head. Not tonight. Maybe someday. She smiled faintly, tears in her eyes. Someday sounds nice. Outside, the sky was beginning to shift, the deep blue of evening melting into the faint gold of streetlight. I walked down the steps slowly, my heels tapping like punctuation marks at the end of a long sentence. Behind me, I heard the door close softly, not slammed this time. When I reached the sidewalk, I stopped and turned back once. Through the front window, I saw my mother embracing my father. My old home looked smaller but lighter somehow, as if truth had finally cracked a window open. I didn't go back to the diner that night. I went to the bus stop, the same one where I'd once sat bleeding and shaking, clutching a torn receipt. The bench was the same, the street the same, but I wasn't. I took off one heel and looked at the faint scar across my foot. The skin had healed long ago, but the memory never really fades. I traced it with my thumb and smiled. Not out of joy, but out of recognition. Every scar is just proof you survived what tried to erase you. I slipped the heel back on and stood. As I started walking, my phone buzzed again. A new message from an unknown number. Thank you. I deserved everything. No name, but I knew. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Some confessions belong to the silence that follows them. I slipped the phone into my purse and kept walking. The wind picked up, carrying the faint smell of rain. The air was cool, gentle. The kind of weather that once felt cruel but now felt cleansing. I thought of all the women like me, the ones who were called liars, burdens, thieves of peace. The ones who carried guilt that was never theirs. Maybe my story wasn't just mine anymore. Maybe it was a whisper for every woman who'd ever been told to keep quiet. I whispered back, don't. A car drove past, headlights sweeping across me for a moment. In that flash, I saw my reflection in a shop window. Older, yes, but unbroken. The kind of woman my sister never imagined I'd become. I smiled at her, the woman in the glass, not the ghost of the girl I'd been. Then I walked away, heels steady on the wet road, the sound fading like a heartbeat finally slowing after years of running. When I reached the end of the street, I stopped one last time and looked back toward the house that had both made me and destroyed me. Its windows were dark now, its doors closed. But for the first time, it didn't look like a prison. It looked like what it truly was, just a house. Home wasn't a place anymore. It was this, the quiet strength in my steps, the proof in my hands, the peace in my chest. I whispered into the night, you took my shoes once. I took your lies. Then I turned toward the horizon where the first drops of rain began to fall. Soft, forgiving, final. My heels clicked once more on the wet pavement. This time not in fear, but in freedom. Sometimes justice doesn't roar. It walks quietly in heels, through the same door that once threw it out. Some betrayals deserve silence. Others deserve a story. If this one moved you, hit subscribe and tell me, where are you watching from today? Your story might be next.